Okay, let's start. Let's kick off this beautiful evening as part of the Dutch Design Week. You are at Digital Wednesday. Jullie zijn op Digital Wednesday. Ik wissel een beetje af in het Engels en het Nederlands. We hebben ook Nederlandstalige sprekers vanavond en we hebben 2 Engelstalige sprekers. Zij komen uit Berlijn, komen speciaal voor deze avond hier naar toe. Ik ben erg trots dat zij hier zijn. Yasmina Haryono uit Berlijn. Zij is de eerste spreker. We hebben trouwens, goed om te vertellen, voordat we daar naartoe gaan, sorry. We hebben 2 sprekers voor de break. Iedere spreker heeft een half uur. Dat is een praatje, inclusief tijd voor wat vragen. Zorg ook dat je die vragen stelt. Maak daar dus gebruik van. Je bent hier, vraag ze ook echt het hemdje van hun lijf. Zorg daarvoor. Doe dat alsjeblieft. We hebben 2 microfoons. Als je een vraag hebt, dan kom ik of mijn collega komt naar je toe. En dan kun je je vraag stellen. Als je dat niet doet, dan kunnen de mensen thuis ons niet horen. Dus dat is belangrijk om even op te onthouden. 2 keer een half uur, dan 15 minuten break. Kan je even een biertje halen, even wat drinken of even naar het toilet. En dan beginnen we met de tweede ronde. Dus een lange zit, maar zeker de moeite waard om ze allemaal te horen spreken vanavond. Right. Dat was mijn verhaal. So now the first speaker, Yasmina. Yasmina is going to talk about user experience design. She is going to show us what really is user experience design. So here she is, straight from Berlin. Yasmina,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you. Right. So, thank you for the introduction. This really feels like a homecoming to me. Thank you for having me here tonight. I used to actually live in Eindhoven from 2001 to 2005. I've since moved on. I spent 5 years in Eindhoven working at Philips Design, sort of across the Hof there in the Witte Dame. And since then, I've moved on to Milan, Düsseldorf, Berlin, and I've worked for startups and corporates and agencies, sort of all across. And right now, I'm leading design at Smart Helios, which is a healthcare company belonging to Europe's biggest private hospital group. So you can Google the rest. I think if you just Google my first name, you're going to get belly dancer at the top. But so just keep scrolling. I think I'm still on the first page of the Google results. Right. So the next 19 minutes, I'm going to talk you through user experience and my experience of it. But first things first, UX versus UI. So I had to Google this because, I think there's a lot of, sort of uncertainty of, what's UX, what's UI, and I thought, well, maybe Google knows. So while there is consensus on what UX is not, actually, there's not a lot of consensus on what it is, because while you can say that user experience is how a user would go through a certain journey and accomplish meaningful tasks, and UI would be the interface that enables this. I'm still getting questions like this or statements like this that the UX doesn't look so nice by this Berlin startup CEO. They didn't make it to their next founding round, so maybe that says something. Basically, to me, I looked at user experience and UI, and in my universe, user experience is really all about relationships. And UI is the artifacts, the visible artifacts of those relationships. So I'm going to take you through, user experience and going beyond the screen and understanding what are these relationships that make up the whole picture of what user experience is. So user experience is the balanced sum of relationship between product and users and business. And I'm going to take you quickly through these. So the first relationship, product and users. Designing a product, especially one with an interface, is really about conversations, right? And a well-executed user experience would actually sort of strengthen your relationship with your users, and a bad one would actually weaken it. So in here, I took a picture of this kid enjoying his ice cream, and imagining that, well, the ice cream is the product, and maybe he really fell in love with this blue flavor ice cream, and he's in love with ice cream the whole time and his whole life, and it's this lifelong sort of engagement, conversation, with ice cream. But you might change flavors, but you still have like this sort of wow factor, and it's and if you're designing a product, you need to balance this sort of long-term, love and sort of loyalty and engagement, but also keeping like this wow factor. Sometimes I liken it to also like marriage, because you need to sort of keep sort of the desire, but also like the want. So. Second relationship, product and business. So to actually be able to deliver a well-designed experience, there needs to be trust between the internal teams that are involved in delivering this. So just as an example, I used to work as a business designer at a large German automotive company. Business design, if you're not familiar with it, is basically the design. I make sure that the business and the organization is as well designed and runs as smoothly as the product experience that we run in the future, on the user side. It's really important to get all the teams aligned in terms of their agendas, but also sometimes like KPIs, and in corporate environments, this is sometimes very difficult to manage, because the corporate culture just creates that competitive, political environment where people are not encouraged to collaborate; they're encouraged to compete, and not in a nice way either. And then in that way, it starts to impact the product that you're trying to deliver, right? It's like, who's prioritizing what and the other. So the last one, and probably this is, the most important, because, if you're a business and you have no users, you don't have a business. So this is the most critical one, and often it's this sort of alignment or misalignment of businesses and the user needs that isn't always, present. And then, so for just as an example, analytics, right? Sometimes companies they don't build the products first. They're just like, oh, how are we going to measure the success? And they start building, right, like the analytics, like conversion rates and churn. And they focus so much on that, and they look at the numbers, because numbers are actually, it's a great tool to project like future revenue, but the numbers aren't actually telling you much about people and their motivations and why they do certain things. So and in here I use a picture of an empty hospital room, because we're in the hospital business, and we're realizing, or we're working on the fact that, okay, we want to keep patients healthy, and that way, if they're healthy, they actually stay out of our hospitals. But then, if hospital is actually our core business, then where are we going to go with that? But so this is the kind of thing that I'm dealing with at work. So what is your relationship with your users? Because this is, ultimately what your user experience will be, right? Like, what does this relationship look like? Are you listening to your users? Are you respecting their time? And is this respect also coming through in the products that you're, bringing and to them? This is. So just to close, this is my last slide. Yeah, your relationship with your users is the user experience, right? Because once you've sort of balanced these relationships, the product and the user and the business, and then the business and the product, and that needs to be sort of like a balanced sum. And then of course, like depending on where you are in terms of company maturity, the product development stage, maybe some relationships need to be more prioritized than others. So what user experience is for your company, it defines the experience for the rest of the journey that hopefully you'll embark upon. So, I think that was it. That was very short. That was like 9 minutes.
Great,
Wow.
thank you, Yasmina.
All right, so bring on
You
the
are way
questions.
within your time. That is very good.
Yes, I don't know.
Yeah, you take it
But
easy.
now we have more time for
Yeah,
questions.
exactly.
You
So
wanna
that's what
ask
we're
me
also here for.
stuff?
Do we have any questions for Yasmina? Anyone? Yeah, there was one here.
Thank you for the talk. How do you explain to businesses the value beyond the numbers?
That isn't okay. That's a tough question. Well, we look. I tend to look at existing sort of companies that have worked, using certain formulas that maybe like worked for them, we, at least like how I convince my stakeholders, is to have like a very small sort of sample where I work with an MVP and actually bring it to a small group of customers, and then we just project it from there, and then actually from that kind of petri dish of an experiment, we discover other opportunities that can grow more revenue. So that's how I've actually managed in the past to do that. Yeah. Hope that answers your question.
Does that answer your question? Great.
Yeah.
Any more? Yeah, there is one. Can I have the mic that way, please? Oh, she's running. Yeah. Take it easy.
Hand omhoog.
Ja, ja.
Wie was het? Hi, so my question's about, you say user experience is about relationships. Mm-hmm. I think brand experience designers and potentially service designers would argue the same thing. Do you agree? Is it mutually exclusive or is it kind of separate?
No, I think they overlap, for sure. Service design, I think if you kind of look at these as a series of Venn diagrams, you might look at sort of customer experience as like being the biggest circle, and then you might see, service design and user experience contained within that circle.
Cool, thanks.
You're welcome.
Great, we have some time left. Do we have any more questions for Yasmina? I have one. You told us that you work a lot in corporate environments, right? Mm-hmm. So, and you also said UX and design, service design, mm-hmm. which can be quite new for them, a new way of thinking. Mm-hmm. What are your biggest challenges and how do you solve those when working with those big corporates?
Oh,
and then it's
right.
more
Yes.
it's more a way of working, because
yes.
I imagine that's quite difficult.
Yes. Yeah. So I had to do a lot of process re-engineering. I do a lot of leading by doing. So I get really hands-on in sort of doing things and prototyping and sort of enabling also my colleagues who maybe aren't so much into prototyping or things like that, and I create like a platform internally super fast for them to be able to render their ideas, and I find that pretty effective, because when you get really hands-on and you kind of develop prototypes that you can show to people and people can have in their hands, and click through or just experience, people tend to buy into your idea.
Yeah, so you were talking about the MVPs. So you work a lot with MVPs.
Yes.
So it's really about really rapidly making prototypes, showing that, adjusting that prototypes, building towards MVP.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of sort of teaching and sort of coaching going on, and there's also like a lot of handholding, because sometimes if people have been sitting in a room with the blinds closed, and you have to open the blinds and sort of tell them like, hey, there's something else out there, you better have this vision ready for them outside, right? If they open the blinds and they see a gray wall, they'll be like, and you guided me all the way to the window to look at a gray wall, right? So so it's this whole sort of like getting them from their seat to the wall and to the window, and opening those blinds, and then but you already have this vision in front of them that they're like, yeah, that's where we're gonna go. So it's that, and so it's both. It's having working with prototypes and MVPs, but also the coaching and the sort of like, it'll be okay, no one's gonna eat you. Yes.
Is it familiar, the problems in a big corporate of design, UX, services design? It is, right? I think a lot of people experience that.
Yeah, and I'm currently in a corporate startup. So I was also, so right now I've just, I'm with Smart Helios.
Yeah.
But previously I was at a big German automotive company, also in their sort of corporate startup environment. And, and I think we were there to also show the rest of the organization how we can develop new products faster, quicker, bring it to the market, and also a new way of working.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw some hands for questions.
Hi, Yasmina. I have a question.
Hi. He's an old colleague.
You mentioned at the beginning the difference between UI and UX.
Yes.
But if you're talking about prototypes, it seems to be more UI than UX. How do you prototype a user experience of a hospital?
I think there are several prototypes. I think you can do experiential prototyping, for example, early on in a project or product development. By experiential prototype, I mean to sometimes take people through the experience of, I don't know, like renting, a truck. Right, and that you can actually fake it. You can actually sort of, actually guide people through a certain space, physical space. Go to the garage, how you can rent it and stuff like that. And then you have the prototyping within the UI. Yeah. Did I forget what your question was? No. Okay.
It's almost like a Wizard of Oz kind of experience of how it could be if it's complete.
Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome.
I saw some more hands. Yeah, here.
When you work for a hospital, you have two experiences, two user experiences. There's one of the customer, I think the doctor who's using it, and of course the patient. They have, of course, maybe totally different experiences of the device they're using that you made. That's your product for your company. For example, in an X-ray room, I've seen them changing over the years.
Yeah.
When I was a young kid, like 10 years old, it was a big machine, all iron, lots of noise. When you see them now, they are just little plastic devices and much easier, not just for the doctor to use, but also for me. Do you take that in account in creating new things?
Yes, we do. So we do create, for example, what we call a service blueprint. And right now, because we're really focused on sort of the patient care, and we do understand that there are the caregivers and medical professionals that are all playing in this user journey. But yes, we do take that into account, and it's really all about sort of orchestrating the the entire journey and the user experience. So for example, like for patients, we can say, hey, we want to be sort of the healthcare companion, but we could also be, we want to be the medical voice of reason, right? That if you've been diagnosed with cancer and there's like an overload of information, if we want to provide this sort of, we're the medical voice of reason so that people can create sort of informed decisions of their healthcare. That's one part of it. But then there's also like these. So it just feels like we're always sort of orchestrating and sort of minimizing risk and sort of managing their expectations and things like this. Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Some more? Yeah, over there, please.
Hello. Of course, you're helping designing the user experiences, right? So just a question, how much percentage of your time goes in talking to the users themselves rather than sitting in a room with a bunch of people and designing the experiences inside out?
I go about once a week into the clinics.
But it's for your current job, just based on your experience? Because
Yes.
if we want to define a good user experience, right, we need to know what the pulse of the market is, or what exactly is it that our customer wants. So is it really important for those user experience designs, and how much percentage of the time is actually spent on understanding the needs of customer?
Yes, I think that's an ongoing conversation with sort of the users that we're designing for. So at the beginning we might do sort of like these heavier, bigger research studies, and then sort of and then as we go into a product development phase, we engage them, for example, in design sprints, right? They come in on Thursdays and Fridays to test things with us. So it is an ongoing thing, and it takes a significant amount of time, because at least in this current setup at Smart Helios, user experience research also falls under design. So, yeah, but I go into the clinics once a week, and it's really fun. And it's great for my German. So, any more questions?
Yeah, in the middle.
Okay, wow, lots of questions.
Hi, thank you. How do you deal with lack of user rationality? For instance, where I'm now, users of our services are actually happier with a way of working, so an experience, a relationship that yields, in the end, on factual basis, a worse result. How much weight should we put on the user satisfaction and experience?
Wow, that's, yeah. A good question. I would still, I don't know, I think in your case, what I would do is to sort of lay out the land and understand like the different levers, and kind of maybe approach it from, almost like a surgical way, where if you change one lever, would it still, change the different outcomes? Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if I have a really good answer for that. But I think in your case, that's something that I might do. Yeah.
All right.
I have some of an inside question. You worked with a lot of corporates.
Yes. Ish.
How do you how do you get this space from business? Because in my experience, it's really hard to get space to do prototyping or to do testing, because they want results immediately. So how do you get this space within business to do this?
The space within business to get the space
the budget,
to experiment.
basically.
You mean
Yeah, the experiment budget, basically.
Right. Okay. We don't have. I think I would say maybe it is a limited experimentation time that we have. That we say, okay, well, we hypothesize that I think we understand what the opportunity area is, what the problems are, and maybe in 3 months we can actually push something out the door, or 6 months. And and I think if you kind of give clear timelines and what the outcomes would be and where you are, they would give you this space. Not everyone does this, because I've also experienced this with in another corporate startup where they're still very like, okay, well, they have like a quarterly vision on things, right? And I think what's worked for me in the past is clear
So there's
communication.
not a continuously test cycle in your UX work, is there? Or is it just not a continuously UX cycle that you're testing all the time?
Sorry, can you just repeat the question again?
I will rephrase.
You have to put the mic a little bit.
Yeah, sorry.
Cheers.
So you don't have a continuously UX cycle that you test all the time what you're doing, so every result, because that works, right? To
Yes.
have the results and then emphasize on it. So you
Yeah.
have to
So I mean,
first-
I'm kind of wondering if this is now like a process question, because I think
Okay, yeah, sorry.
I think there's design thinking, there's sort of like lean UX, and then you go into Scrum, and I think we just need to sort of know, hey, if these are like the 3 different ways of working, right? Where am I now, and what information do I need? If I'm missing something, maybe I shouldn't be in this mode of working. I should be in another. And I think if you understand sort of the lay of the land, then you can sort of switch between modes. Right, because sometimes I would start with a sprint, and then go into like a bigger sort of cycle, like design thinking, and then come back into a sprint.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks.
All right, that was the last question. Thank you so much, Yasmina. Ladies and gentlemen, applause.
Thank you.
Thank you.